Yo, what is up everybody, and welcome back to another Madden 17 Ultimate Team game. We're bringing out the big guns once again, but so is our opponent. He's got that limited time Howie Long 98 overall. We've got LaShawn McCoy, and Shady has broken it for the 71 yards on the game's second play. Yeah, he had Night Train Lane, he had Deion Sanders, so he's definitely got a nice squad of his own as he's going to get the one-handed catch with the wide receiver Deion, I believe. Now, one thing I do want to talk about throughout this video, we'll do it a little bit more later in the video, is talk about some NFL playoff action in general. We'll talk about some wildcard weekend, make some Super Bowl predictions, all that good stuff. Third down and 24 right here, under pressure, and taking down Von Miller. A little spin move off the edge right there. Gotta love that Von, man. I've had him since pretty much launch day. We did, the Man of the Month set in August, and we kept him ever since. That card's still really, really good, as you see Brett Favre breaking a tackle, rolling out, and getting big hit right there was Patrick DeMarco. It's going to be a drop pass, already with the 7-0 lead, looking to get some more points on the board early on, finding Jimmy Graham in the middle of the field, giving the ball back to McCoy. Last time he touched, he got a touchdown. Hoping to get more of the same, but we'll take a first down carry right there. Next play, looking deep middle. Odell, oh no, drops the ball right there. Second down and 10. Look at that man right back, Odell Beckham Jr. This time he's got the touchdown, and we're up 14-0 early on. This was a playoff game, you guys can tell. Once again, these quarter lengths were 5 minutes long. So we'll start off with Houston versus Oakland with some playoff actions. You guys can see this guy's starting to fall apart here, throwing an interception to Eric Berry. We got a little bit of control in this game. It's still really early, but I'm feeling good about the way we're playing. But not too sure I feel good about either Houston or Oakland. Well, actually, I'm not saying I'm not sure. I know I'm not feeling good about Houston or Oakland. But one of these teams is going to win a playoff game. Is third down and 17. We throw a dime to Odell Beckham Jr. for the first down. OBJ coming up big early on. So both these teams are having quarterback issues. The Texans are having a problem with the quarterback that they signed in the offseason. They don't want him to play as Odell comes up big again. And then the Raiders, obviously Derek Carr out for the year, and Matt McGloin got hurt last week. So now you got Connor Cook being thrown out there. We got Brock Osweiler being thrown out there. And in a game like this with, two not so great quarterbacks, two pretty much replacement quarterbacks, we'll call Brock kind of a replacement quarterback since he's replacing Savage, who is out with a concussion. That was just a bad floater right there. I kind of read that defense wrong as we almost get a safety via Lawrence Taylor. So in this kind of game, you kind of just want to rely on who has the better defense, and I think Houston has the better defense, one of the best passing defenses in the league with Jonathan Joseph, you got Kevin Johnson back there, AJ Boyd, Quinn Dems. Then in the pass rush, you got no JJ Watt in the middle there exactly, but you still have Whitney Merciless and, of course, Jadeveon Clowney. The Raiders, definitely got people to compete in this game, and it will be one of these games where it probably comes down to a lot of field position and, who manages their drives better, who gets some points out of it and all that. One of those kind of grind-out games, and I think Houston is built to win those games more just because, there's no Derek Carr. These teams did play earlier this year on Monday Night Football, and Oakland won, but it took a Derek Carr comeback for them to get back into that game and win. I think for Houston, they'll be able to control the ground game a little bit better. They have the better running back in Lamar Miller, and I would say Oakland has a better offensive line, but Donald Penn is out, so that might not even, that might help balance the stakes a little bit there at the offensive line battle. So all in all, I think Houston wins that game as we go up 21-0 after that Randy Moss catch and then the LaShawn McCoy run for a second touchdown of the game, putting them down 21-0. We move on to the Sunday night game, Seattle versus Detroit. Now, I think this is going to be a good game. I think, just by the nature of the way these two teams play, I think that it'll come down to something late in the fourth quarter. If you guys remember, I believe it was last year, these two teams played on Monday Night Football, and it came down to that weird Calvin Johnson play where, the ball got batted out of bounds. I think KJ Wright batted it out of bounds, and it was illegal or whatever. Yada, yada, yada. All in all, Seattle won that game at home. And I think Seattle wins this game at home as well. Seattle's just such a different team at home than on the road, and they just have a pretty good, I don't say pretty good, really defense, one of the best defenses in the league. I can't sell them short. I want to say pretty good because they don't have Earl Thomas, but even with Steven Terrell, Earl Thomas's replacement, there's still a top defense in the league. I don't think they have what it takes to go to the Super Bowl this year. I don't think they have what it takes to make that kind of run. I think if they go against a team that can, pass rush at Russell Wilson, get some pressure on him because they have pretty much the worst offensive line in the league. At least in the playoffs, they got the worst offensive line, and I think that a lot of teams can take advantage of that. I just don't think Detroit is one of those teams. Detroit's defense is not so great. They don't have much talent on that line besides Ezekiel Ansah, and they just don't have the right team to take Seattle out at home. Like you guys saw, the Vikings last year, they had that really good defense they got at Russell Wilson. Same with the Panthers. Detroit doesn't have that. And even though they have Matt Stafford, who probably had the best year of his career, I don't think that's enough. And plus, Matt Stafford kind of still bothered by that finger injury. It looks like the Lions are in a huge slump right now. I just don't think they could get it turned around right now in Seattle. Seattle's looking okay, good enough to win games, and should be able to take advantage of a slumping Detroit team. But like I said, I don't think Seattle can move on further. I'm not even sure they get past their probable next round opponent, which would be the Atlanta Falcons. So moving on to Pittsburgh versus Miami. This should be a very interesting game. These two teams met up early in the regular season, and Miami won the game. Miami pretty much dominated the game. Besides a long touchdown run by Darius Hayward-Bay on a end around, it was pretty much all Miami and all Jay Ajayi. Now, the one thing to remember is that Big Ben was injured in this game. They did have their big three, Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio Brown, but Big Ben was injured, and then, partially because of that, you had Antonio Brown limited to 4 catches in that game. On the other side of the spectrum, Jay Ajayi went off for over 200 yards, and then you had Jarvis Landry, who got, I believe, 7 catches, 95 yards. Really good day. This is a really good topper right here. I think this might be the best topper you can get out of this whole thing. So, I think in this rematch game, I think we actually get a little bit of a reverse, where Le'Veon Bell is the one that dominates. Now, you do have Ndamukong Suh and some of those guys up the middle that can stop him, but I think Le'Veon Bell has a big day with that offensive line. Pouncey is healthy going into the playoffs. All of these guys are healthy, and that's just so big for Pittsburgh because that's been their Achilles heel a little bit. Le'Veon hasn't been healthy in the playoffs. Antonio Brown missed the game against Denver last year with the concussion, and Big Ben's been missing games in the regular season the past couple of years, but all these guys are here, and I think, Antonio Brown, also a flip of the script, is going to have a big day, and maybe the Steelers do a better job of covering Jarvis Landry, because the Steelers team, their weakness is not their secondary. That might actually be their strength. Their weakness is their front seven. Their linebackers not playing too well this year. Shazier is very inconsistent. Timmons hasn't been too well. And then in the middle, there's not really too much going on. So I think that, I would take Pittsburgh to win this game just because of Le'Veon Bell. I think Le'Veon Bell's brilliance can help them win this game, because otherwise, I'm not sure what would happen if, let's just say you throw DeAngelo Williams in there. I don't think Pittsburgh wins this game. I think Miami, Matt Moore's and decent enough replacement for Ryan Tannehill, not too much of a drop-off. And then Jay Ajayi is playing really good this season, even though the offensive line not playing so well. But including Juwan James, as we pull him right there, is actually a really good pull. But I do think Pittsburgh wins this game. Pittsburgh's just hot right now, and I think they carry their momentum. Now, the final game we got to talk about of Wild Card Weekend is my New York Giants going on the road to Green Bay. Now, might be a little bit biased, but I think the Giants win this game right here. I know a lot of people, got the Packers at home. Rodgers is hot. They're running the table. They're about to run all the way to the Super Bowl. But I just don't think that the Giants are a good matchup for the Packers because they have a really good run defense. So right away, that could take out Ty Montgomery and Aaron Ripkowski and whomever else wants to run the ball. And then you get Rodgers to throw the ball, and that's cool. The Packers want Rodgers to throw the ball. But throwing the ball against Janoris Jenkins, Landon Collins, DRC, who had a really clutch game last week to knock the Redskins out the playoffs. I don't think that's what when you had the Sunday Night Football game, Aaron Rodgers didn't play bad, but it was just that you couldn't really find many people open, and that was against a Giants secondary that was a little bit battered up. DRC was hurt, Eli Apple was hurt. Now for the Packers, they're both different teams than when they played Sunday Night Football. I believe it was Week 5. Aaron Rodgers has found his groove. Devontae Adams is getting a lot of confidence. Ty Montgomery has emerged. And, you got a few defensive guys that are showing up. And one thing I saw that was kind of curious was that they're calling that Gunter dude from Green Bay, with Darius Gunter, I believe his name is, the secret Odell stopper, because Odell didn't do too well in that Green Bay game. But I'm not sure that's true. I think that might just be more Eli Manning than anything else, because as someone who's watched all the Giants games, Eli Manning's been terrible this season. And anybody who's expecting playoff Eli to emerge, I'm not sure that's a thing. Eli's having maybe his worst year as a pro, at least worst year I've seen him play as a pro. So with all of that, I still think the Giants win the game just because they can ride their defense, and all Eli Manning has to do is be a game manager. You do that, and you win the game. For the Packers, for them to win the game, I believe Aaron Rodgers has to attack the middle of the field. The linebacking core for the Giants is definitely their weakness. And if you can attack the middle and all of a sudden that opens up a few passes deep and all that, you get Janoris Jenkins to bite on something because he is prone to, biting on double moves and all that. You get Jordy Nelson going because obviously he's been having a really good second half of this year, coming back from the big injury from last year. And that's how I think the Packers win the game. But I do think the Giants win this game. It should be a really good game, though. Win or loss, I think that's got to be the game of the week right there. Should come down to the wire. And should be a lot of fun. Hoping my Giants come out on top, though. And now, finally, we'll make a little bit of Super Bowl prediction to end this video. We'll talk about some more divisional round stuff, whenever that happens next week. But my Super Bowl prediction is a classic NFL matchup. Happened a lot in the 70s. Happened one more time in the 90s in the Super Bowl. It's Dallas versus Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh with their big three, their defense, not great, but I feel good enough to make the big plays. And I feel like, Pittsburgh finally gets off the schneid. They've never been able to beat New England, but they played them really good earlier this season without Big Ben. I think with Big Ben back, they can actually beat this Patriots team. I think you might see the effects of no Gronkowski and no Chandler Jones and no Jamie Collins. It might finally show up in the playoffs. We'll see what happens. Or Pittsburgh even beats Kansas City in the first place so they win their game. And then for Dallas, I just think there's a lot of talent on that Dallas team. They have the new triplets, as you like to call it, with Dak, Zeke, and Des Bryant. And then the Great Wall of Dallas, too. Can't forget about those guys, because that's partially a big reason why those Dallas teams in the 90s won. It was the Great Wall of Dallas. Now the Great Wall of Dallas has been recreated, and it might be better than ever. And then that defense is just scrappy enough to get a couple of stops, force maybe a turnover a game, and that all they got to do is win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl, and I think they're capable of doing that. I think if they meet the Giants a third time this season, they can figure them out, because it's really hard to be a team 3 times. And I think all 3 of those games were close. I think Dallas can figure that out. And then against Seattle or the Falcons in the championship game, I would favor the Dallas Cowboys. And then you have Dallas versus the Steelers in the Super Bowl, which should be a really, really fun game. Because if you guys remember the regular season game, that was one of the games of the year. So that's all my predictions. Hope you guys leave a like in the video if you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. If you guys agree, disagree, what you guys thought. And till then, I'll catch you guys next time.